Hi, have you ever wanted to learn to play the piano, but you thought, I'm too old, I'm starting too late. You really, really love music, you're passionate about music, but you feel like I'm it's too late for me. I have a full-time job. I got kids, I got family, I got responsibilities. I don't have time to take piano lessons. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is possible to learn to play the piano, even as an adult. I know this firsthand because I learned to play the piano as an adult. Hi, my name is Greg Brown. I am, as of this recording, I am 63 years old, soon to be 64. I'm a full-time professional musician and have been for the last 21 plus years. I didn't learn to play the piano until I was in my 30s, early 30s. Didn't get halfway good on piano till I was late 30s. I didn't get what I would consider to be decent on piano until I was in my mid 40s. Went back to school, studied jazz piano. It is possible if the passion is there. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I was raised in the South. I've always had a passion for music, always. I literally have a copy of my baby book that my mom showed me. And she said at 9 months old, she said, you know, he might be a doctor because he seems to be kind of a bright child, but he may want to be a musician because he can recognize any type of sound with a beat, any kind of sound with a rhythm. I could recognize it as a child. So I've always been passionate about music. My whole life, always have loved music. However, growing up in South Louisiana in the 60s, man, your options were limited. The things that were available to you were somewhat limited. Now what I'm about to say next may not have been true, but it was certainly the perception of an 8, 9, 10-year-old boy who was me. My perception of learning to play the piano back in those days was you were going to learn how to play church hymns or classical music. That's what you were going to learn. If you took piano lesson, your final destination was church hymns and classical music. That was it. Now, that may not have been it, but that was certainly my perception. That's what I thought. And I didn't want any part of that. No disrespect to people that love hymns, but I wasn't one of them. Didn't feel it. Just the music of that. Well, I wasn't feeling that. I wanted to play the music I was hearing on the radio. I wanted to play Stevie Wonder. I wanted to play the Jackson 5. I wanted to play Temptations. I wanted to play some of the jazz that my dad and I would listen to all the time. That's what I wanted to play. But the resources, to my knowledge of that, to learn that, it just wasn't available. And the lady that I studied with as a kid, I took piano lessons as a child, a couple of years. Sweetest lady she could be, just as sweet as she could be, nice lady. And it wasn't that she said, well, no, I'm not going to teach you those things. But a teacher can only teach what they know. And so what she knew was reading music that ultimately led to playing classical music. That's what she knew, so that's what she taught. And I get that. But I wasn't interested in that. So jump ahead. I've always been a singer. I sang, coming up, sang in the choir, church choirs and stuff like that, in high school choir. In fact, I ended up with wasn't a full ride, but I got a scholarship, small scholarships to LSU, vocal scholarships. The only thing I could see I could do with that, though, was become a high school choir director. Didn't have any interest in that then, don't have any interest in that now. Not really. That's not where my passion, that's not where my heart was. So I passed on it, basically joined the military. And it was there that I went back to college in my early 20s, majored in voice again, majored in music, was a music major, studied music theory, But again, the piano lessons that were available at that time, it was all classical music. And I took a little bit of that. I would say I got to the level perhaps of maybe a lower intermediate, maybe advanced beginner. But I wasn't feeling it. I mean, again, the music that was in my heart to play, I couldn't find anyone to show me that. That was what I wanted. So, jump ahead a few more years. I'm now out of the military. I'm about 20. Well, I'm out of the military at 24. I'm now about 26. And I became a Christian. I accepted Christ in my life, became a Christian. And I was full of zeal and, I'm going to go out and change the world. And I knew how to play this one song on the piano. I knew how to play this one song because it had 3 chords in it. It was Got to Be Real by Cheryl Lynn. And I knew how to play that. It was just three little chords. So this guy walks up to me and says, "Hey man, my church is looking for a piano player. Would you be interested in the job?" And I was just a new Christian and said, yeah, I'll do it. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't play the piano. I knew how to play that one song. Literally, I knew how to play one song. But I was full of enthusiasm, so I took a job at a church as the head pianist and musician, and I didn't play the piano. Now, I had experience in the past. I had a little experience in the past where I had directed the local Air Force base choir here in Northwest Florida, but I didn't play piano. I was never the pianist for the choir, and so I took this job as pianist. And I can promise you now, this was a Methodist church. I won't name the church. Those of you who know me here in this part of Florida probably know what church I'm talking about. But this was a Methodist church. It was an AME church. And Methodist means method, meaning that it was the same order of service every week, same songs every week. And then the choir would have to sing a couple of special selections. So anyway, what I did was, and it's amazing because I now literally teach what I did out of necessity at that church this was in the early 80s, I guess 30 years ago. The girl that was leaving, I literally had her write out note for note the chords of the song. I don't mean musical notes, I mean alphabets. C, E, G, draw a line under it, and then draw a C underneath the line, symbolizing left hand, right hand. And that is how I got through the order of service at this church. I just had the desire, didn't mind making a fool out of myself. And the thing I joke about is that I say I was better than nothing. That's about what it was. I was literally better than nothing. So, however, that story ends pretty cool. The first 8 years were very rough, but the last 2 years, we were writing original music. I was still kind of doing everything by ear. There was another young man and another young lady that came on board to help me. And they were really more the musicians of it. I played the drums and did a little more directing. But anyway, you jump ahead. During this time, I worked for a defense contractor who started a small business in his garage, grew to become one of the top small businesses in the country. And working there really changed my life. Because I had always grown up to think, well, it's cool, you like music, that's nice, I'm glad you like music, but you can't really expect to make a living as a musician unless you want to teach high school or play for a church or something like that. But this man, because of his entrepreneurial spirit, I was always watching him. I was never a manager at this company. I was never a supervisor. I drove a forklift. I worked in the mailroom, but I was always watching the guy who was the owner of this company. And he grew this company from a small startup in his garage, I understand, to I think we ended up with 5 plants nationwide. To my understanding, he received an award from President Reagan for one of the top small businesses in the country at that time, around 1988. And he made me believe, just by being himself, that anything is possible. And it literally was at that time that I said to myself, if I ever own my own business, or when I own my own business, while driving a forklift, I said this, I was going to name it 5 Smooth Stones, whatever the business is, based on the story of Daniel in the Bible, where he chose, the story goes that he chose 5 stones from a brook as he went to face Goliath. And I chose that name for my business way back then, long before I could see it, but I just believed it. And so I worked for this guy for 8 years, worked for him for 8 years. Then I left. Things happened, and business kind of went under for a minute, and I left. I left in 1992. I kind of worked various and sundry jobs between 92 and 97 for about a 5-year period. And so I ended up as the groundskeeper at a private Christian school where my 2 oldest children, who are now grown, attended. And we really liked the school at that time. And in order for them to attend that school tuition free, if you wanted to work there, your children could attend free. So that's what I did. And it was during that time the second year I was on their staff. I was on the groundskeeping staff. Actually, it wasn't a staff, it was just me. They weren't going to hire me back the next year. They weren't going to hire me back the next year. So I said, what am I going to do? So what I did was, I said, I know, I'll teach piano lessons for a living. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't really play piano that good, but I knew enough to teach an elementary student at the first 2 or 3 levels of music. Took a job. No, I didn't take a job. Started to remodel my garage. Paid a guy $500, remodeled my garage, turned that into a music studio. And I remember my wife saying to me, how are you going to teach piano lesson? You don't even have a piano. And I didn't. I didn't have a piano. I had a keyboard. I said, I'll do it. I printed up some flyers, start passing out in the neighborhood. And this goes to show that if you start to make a move, things will begin to happen for you. One day I'm at church, a lady comes up to me and goes, hey, Greg, do you know anyone that teaches piano lesson? I'm like, yeah, me. That's what I'm about to do. I literally had sheetrock mud under my fingernails when she asked me that. I'm like, yeah, me. Sheetrock mud from remodeling my garage with this guy. She said, well, Eglin Air Force Base, which is here in the Panhandle of Northwest Florida, at the Skills Development Center, the lady that teaches my daughter is leaving, and they're looking for a piano teacher. This woman has 40 students already in place. Give her a call. I called the woman at her house that day. Next thing I know, within 2 weeks, I had a job. I had a contract with Eglin Air Force Base, and I'm the piano teacher on Eglin. 40 students. I didn't even want 40 students. Some of them were more advanced than me. I ended up taking like 25 students, because like 15 of them they were too advanced. And not that they were all that advanced, but they were just kind of too advanced for me. So I re-enrolled in school again, studied piano pedagogy, piano teaching, started back taking lessons again. And the next thing I know, I'm 40 years old now at this time. A bunch of stuff happened. It's a whole other story. I'll share it maybe on another video. I ended up performing at Carnegie Hall. That's a whole other story how that happened. I ended up being vice president of the county music. I belong to the National Music Teacher Association, the State Music Teacher Association, and the County Music Teacher Association. At the time, I didn't even have my degree yet, but God just kind of opened that door for me. I was vice president of the County Music Teacher Association with Carnegie Hall on my resume. Whole nother story how that happened. And so I'm telling you all of this to tell you that all of this stuff happened to me after I was 40 years old. The big stuff started opening the studio, Carnegie Hall. I've written and produced scores for film for Sundance Film Festival. The Joffrey Ballet, which is one of the top ballets in, if not the nation, and if not the world, in the nation, was performing here a couple of years back, and they needed a rehearsal pianist. I got the call. So here's this world famous ballet company. The artistic director was conducting an audition slash master class. I get the call, they need a rehearsal pianist. They call me on a Friday and tell me, we need you Saturday. Don't bring any music. Whatever the director wants you to play, he'll just hum it, and then spontaneously, we need you to just make something up on the spot. And honestly, I chickened out. I told him, oh no, that's too short of a notice for me. I'll be washing my car tomorrow. Well, I thought about all the tons of speeches I'd given to my kids, to my students about motivation and about opportunity. And I said, well, I can't punk out. If I fall flat on my face, I fall flat on my face. And long story short, I took the job. Turned out to be a piece of cake, which that really was right up my alley, improvisation and being able to play on the spot. And basically what he would do was, he would just give me, he'd maybe go like, okay, I need something that goes like this. And he'd go boom, 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 boom. So basically what he was saying was make up a little song in 3/4 time, which not a problem. Or he'd say, make me up a little song in 4/4 time. And that's what I would do. He was contemporary ballet, not classical ballet. So, but long story short, it ended up being a blast. Just another opportunity that I had. I've served as music director for a major production here at the local college. I produce albums, well, CDs for clients for pay, not just on the side for fun. I produce my own CD. I have written original songs for clients and produced them, arranged them. I've had people sing into a microphone or sing into their phone and then develop a full song around that for them. This is what I do. I am a full-time musician. I'm not a retired military, retired government worker with a pension check coming in. And I've made a very comfortable living for myself and my family as a musician. And so I'm here to share with you a couple of things. One, the nuts and bolts of how to play the piano. Let's talk about that first. My style of teaching, I'm attempting to digitize everything that I have done over the last 21 years as a private music studio owner with an average of 35 students, private students over the last 21 years. Sometimes I've had as many as 50 students. Sometimes I've had as few as 30. So I would say an average of about 35, 40 students over the last 21 plus years. Everything that I do with them in class, I'm attempting now, or I plan now, to put online and demonstrate to you. My style of teaching is, first and foremost, fun. It's music. We're not doing brain surgery. Not in the sense of, it's not brain surgery in the sense of, if you make a mistake, no one's gonna be paralyzed. No one's gonna not be able to see out their left eye anymore. We're gonna keep it fun first of all, because it's music. I can remember being in school and I would have some music teachers and they're just, in my opinion, they're too dang on serious. We're making music here, man. I mean, to me, we're making homemade ice cream. Now, we've got some work to do. We've got some things that we have to learn and do. But at the end of the day, it's music. It's passion, you know. Secondly, I'm really only interested in students that want to learn music. I have 4 kids, my wife and I. None of them play piano. One of them took piano lesson for a little bit. And the reason they don't take piano lessons is they're not interested in it. And I'm fine with that. So I'm looking for people that want to learn to play, but perhaps thought that it wasn't possible for them. My other style of teaching is my mind works very analytically. Had I not been a musician, I might have been an engineer. In fact, I have a son, my youngest. That's what he wants to do, and he's also actually just picked up guitar at 16 years of age. Because my mind works in a real logical, analytical fashion. I'm not a good speller, meaning I'm not good at memorizing things, but boy, you give me something logical, I can grab onto that. So that's my style of teaching. So I teach very logically, very analytically, but also very simply. I use an analogy of, I use this example, not analogy, where I say a ton of feathers. Can you pick, learning music theory, studying with me is like a ton of feathers. So I say, can you lift a feather? You're like, yeah, no problem, I can pick up a feather. Then I say, can you pick up a ton? No, you can't. But if you picked up one feather at a time, long enough, you eventually would pick up a ton of feathers. And so this is how I explain music theory. I can assure you that it is simple. It is simple. A lot of times people tell you things are simple, but they say it's simple because they know how to do it. And there's always a little something that where you kind of just have to know that, but they don't explain it. I'm gonna pat myself on the back right here and say, I am a better teacher than I am player. And I can play pretty good, but I can explain something. It's just a gift. I come from a family of teachers, my grandparents, my mom, all of them. So that is my strength. I can explain the same piece of information through 10, 15 different ways where you will understand it, Secondly, the thing that I look for is, well, I've already said that you want to be here, and that we go step by step. Now, having said that, I'm going to structure this channel eventually where you begin to learn the music. I put it this way. I try to be the teacher that I wish I would have had when I was 9 or 10 years old. I try to be that teacher. What does that mean? That means the teacher that helps me to do what it is I want to do. So I structure everything I do around what you're interested in. This is how I work. This has been my niche. This has been my success over the last 20, 21 plus years. This is how I've done it. My wife and I have done quite well here. Just built brand new custom 3,500 square foot all brick home with a nice studio. The only thing I cared about was the studio, based solely on what I do as a musician. And I don't teach public school. I don't teach college. I teach private one-on-one, and I produce for other musicians and other singers. And now I'm starting this phase of my life. And so if you think that this may be something you're interested in, please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and I promise you there will be more interesting videos coming as I progress through this thing. Now, for now, I didn't put any, this was just an introduction to myself. I didn't put any instruction on this video, but on the next one, which will be coming out in no less than 2 weeks, by the second week of March, we will begin our study of music theory. And my style of teaching is one that, a few things. One, you'll be able to hear something on the radio, figure out how to play it, just by listening to it. Two, if you have any interest in writing your own music, if you have any desire to, where you have a little melody in your head and you want to be able to put chords to that, how do you put chords to that? I'll show you how to do that. And third and lastly, how to not really read music. I mean, there is a ton of information on reading music already out there, and it's good information. It's good information. I'm not tripping on that. It's good. But what I bring to the table is the ability to understand music in a way that you can then play it. In other words, you hear some song, I don't know, first song comes to my mind right now is Alicia Keys' If I Ain't Got You. And you hear that song, and you say, oh, I want to be able to play that. Well, I can show you how to play that without sheet music, without reading notes, by understanding the harmonics. I'm just using her as an example. Understanding the harmonic structure of that song. Because it's basically chords. It's basically chords. And then taking those chords and being able to play them. And we start really simply. We start very simply. On my next video, I'm going to show you how to play all 12 major scales. And I would say it shouldn't take over 5 minutes. Now, you won't be able to do it fast. You won't be able to play it fast. But I guarantee you will be able to do it accurately once you understand the pattern. That being said, I'm going to close for now. Again, if you like what you've heard, please subscribe to the channel. Hit thumbs up and hit the notification button so that you'll be notified every time I put out a new video. I call my channel Keys to Success and Motivation. Keys meaning piano, and also, figuratively speaking, keys to being successful. I'll always try to drop a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of my experience as a musician and just as a human being in this earth that has helped me to do the things I've been able to do after the age of 40, and just try to shed a little light on a few things to get you to, for you to think about, for you to maybe enhance your life some more. Thanks again.